All right, guys, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. Today we have a very special guest, David Vallejos. Did I say that right, sir?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Awesome. So, David, the reason we connected is because you are a Second Amendment advocate. You have some stories to tell in terms of your difficulty in California with a very specific sheriff that we've known to be a little bit of a bullshit artist. So I'm just going to pass the mic to you, man. Tell us what's been going on, what have you been fighting for, and how does that relate to our gun rights?
Okay, my name is David Vallejos. I am the plaintiff in Vallejos v. Rob Bonta and Chad Bianco. It's a federal lawsuit I had to file pro se. I am challenging the unconstitutional CCW scheme in California. I applied for my CCW application in 2022, right after Bruin, so that would have been August of 2022. I heard about Bruin. I followed the story and the law and the case. And as soon as Bruin was decided, I'm like, okay, yeah, we got Sheriff Bianco in office. He's pro Second Amendment. It's going to be pretty easy, and it's pretty much given that I'm going to get a CCW because I've got a Arizona CCW. I'm an FFL. I volunteer for CRPA. I'm very active and involved in the 2A advocacy community. I believe that.
Just to be clear, you're not a felon or anything. You're a law-abiding citizen. There's no reason to reject you, which, by the way, CCW, to me, I've always said this before, it's tyranny on the installment plan. It's right to bear arms, period.
Yeah, so I am a federal firearms licensee. I hold an active and valid Arizona CCW. I could buy firearms. I could buy ammo. Well, the ammo background check kind of is in limbo right now. But I buy ammo. I buy weapons all the time. I even walked into my appeal because after my second denial, which was actually withdrawn, so I applied a second time in 2024 after SB 2 kicked into play, which gave me an avenue to file an appeal. So after I had an avenue to file an appeal, I went and filed the BOF 1031 in California, and that gives me the avenue to appeal actually was a withdrawal application. So I have the evidence and proof of that with emails that they withdrew my application, didn't give me the opportunity to go through this process a second time, and they tried to actually stop my appeal. They wanted to stop my ability to file the appeal because that was part of their whole thing was, well, he didn't finish the application process, so how could he file an appeal? That was their defense, and then the judge let it go through, and I still lost the case, even though I went with a letter from Rob Bonta stating that I was not a disqualified person or prohibited by federal or state law to carry or own a weapon.
All right, so let me get this straight. Like, you're applying for a CCW, you're getting rejected, and you're getting rejected by the guy that's running as a Second Amendment advocate, Chad Bianco, for governor of California. Now, the reason why this is so interesting to me is because this individual called me an assassin for having lawful guns. And by the way, guys, we're up to our fifth court session where we're just wanting the body cameras that made Chad Bianco come up with his ridiculous false accusations in order to push his governor run. And after 4 hearings, we're about to go into a 5th one, they refuse to release all the body cameras. Very interesting, right? Also very interesting that he picks on somebody that's a lawful gun owner and then goes around trying to get Republicans' votes saying that is pro 2A. And what you're hearing from David right now is a story similar to mine, that what he says does not necessarily match his actions. So tell us a little bit more, David.
Okay, I used to volunteer a lot for certain 2A organizations, and as soon as they figured out it was Chad Bianco, for some reason, all my support and all my help was withdrawn. They wouldn't even return my phone calls anymore, my emails. They sent in their lawyers to send me an email to say that, oh, we can't represent you at this time. And it was all because it was Chad Bianco. And if you notice, there's been these events all throughout, the county and different areas where they hold these fundraising events, and all of the funds goes to these Second Amendment organizations. And what do you know? These Second Amendment organizations are still giving him an A+ rating and supporting him for governor and trying to push him through as literally somebody who they say walks on water. I sent you that video. Hopefully you received it, of that 2A organization literally saying that he walks on water.
which is so ridiculous because, I mean, dude, the institution's so corrupt. The reason they're supporting this man, like, he has very little actual support. He's basically forced the Sheriff's Association, the union, to give him a whole bunch of money because his fundraising was sucking, and that's actually documented in a lot of articles. I mean, you're talking about a highly corrupt ecosystem, okay? Highly corrupt, where we saw yesterday, okay? 80% of the people polled within Riverside, we had various community activists go around Riverside collecting polls where 80% plus were saying that they want accountability for Sheriff Chad Bianco. And then they had a hearing yesterday with the Riverside board. Chad Bianco has his entire executive staff show up in an act of threaten them and intimidate them. The union passed a message to the board saying that if you rule to have oversight over Chad, because they're scared, because if they have oversight over Chad, all the union's corruption comes out, all the potential laundering of money. They say, hey, if you guys support this, we're going to withdraw all funds to your Riverside board members. The Riverside board members then vote against the will of the people because they don't want their pockets hurt. This is the way stuff like this happens. So anyway, just wanted to throw that in there.
Yep, and you're perfectly correct. You're correct with everything, with the tyranny that we have here in Riverside County. I mean, we are literally living in a phase of what I consider to be Stockholm Syndrome, where we're kind of sympathizing with our oppressors because he literally has almost like a small cult following here in Riverside County, which I used to talk to a lot, volunteering at the booths. And as I make my rounds, around town and on, little bit of presence I have on social media, as soon as you bring up to them that he knelt to BLM, he falsely accused you of the third assassination attempt, they seem to like not even know it happened, or they have short-term memory because they sit there and they'll actually deny the fact that it even happened. They don't remember. People have short-term memory, and that's exactly what they're counting on, is everyone that has short-term memory. That's why he wants to be governor. That's why he even has the goal or the audacity to even run for governor, because he's counting on his constituents to be people with short-term memory who don't remember, don't know what's going on, and don't keep up with the law. And they're not counting on them to read what exactly that they're putting out there, like that AOG 2022-02, that memo that actually gives blueprint on how to violate people's rights with the CCW scheme to
I mean, it's like he's a tyrant. And look, this is the thing that I've noticed. Right now, we have a clip that's going viral as we speak on X, right? The reason it's going viral is because we took a picture of his entire executive staff yesterday at the Riverside board meeting in a clear act of intimidation. By the way, these people are getting paid by the taxpayer dollars, and they're there. Taxpayer dollars are now paying to intimidate. Taxpayer dollars are paying to fight my case against Chad Bianco, basically to prolong it for his governor run. And these gameplays of not releasing body cameras, guess why they're not releasing body cameras, guys? Because if he releases the body cameras now, lo and behold, it comes out that he was completely full of shit and called me an assassin for his own political game, which most everybody that has brain cells already knows. And so they're going to delay. Guess who's paying for that? These delays, they have 8 attorneys getting paid $750 an hour writing this one case in defense of Chad Bianco for something that is indefensible, literally. So now the taxpayers are going to pay millions and millions of dollars. Eventually, they're going to lose millions and millions of dollars, all paid via the taxpayer dollars. This is a scheme that Chad Bianco is running. He comes to you and he says, I'm going to give you CCW, while he works with organizations that are going to deprive you of our rights. And the issue here, by the way, last point, David, before I pass the mic on to you, is that the idiot voters. Right now, we have this thing going viral. Most people are horrified at what they're seeing, the acts of intimidations. But then there's a bunch of Bianco lovers that are like, basically like, oh, I'm retarded for posting this. I'm this, I'm that, right? And the point that I'm trying to make is David was talking about how these people have Stockholm Syndrome. I would even go as, and loving their oppressor, I would even take it a step further. I think these people are broken because they're literally fighting for the guy that's going to be their oppressor. So anyway, David, Mike, back to you, sir.
Yeah, you're totally correct on everything. I agree with everything you're saying. You've done your homework. You've seen the oppression that goes on here in Riverside. You experienced it yourself. I experienced it. And as you can see, you agree that people have this kind of fog over their eyes, or this veil that's over their face, and they don't see what's going on, or they choose not to see. And then when you bring it in front of them, it creates this cognitive dissonance, and it actually creates them to not like you anymore, almost, because you're bringing them the truth and making them realize that the image that they've seen as what they say, like that Second Amendment organization said, this image that walks on water is now this fallible image that is making mistakes and has lawsuits piling up against him. He's got deputies running fentanyl for the cartels. His captain just sued him because she was a whistleblower who got fired because
before we get to the Vicky Flores case, one thing I want to say about the fentanyl, these are the things that, okay, guys, I'm going to lay it out real quick. So while I don't have evidence that this guy's running fentanyl for the cartel on hand, right? Let me give you some math equations, which is that the Riverside Police Department or Sheriff's Department has the most opiate deaths within their prison, right? Now, one has to ask, it's a prison. How does opiates get within the prison, right? Could that be that you have a bunch of scumbag deputies that are bringing into prison? How does opiates get into a prison if one is a responsible sheriff? Because nothing should get into the prison that the sheriff doesn't want to get into the prison. Then you have cases of 60 kilos of fentanyl gone missing, ending up in Las Vegas, where tons of children are having fentanyl overdoses, and lo and behold, they find out that this was taken from Bianco's sheriff department. So, I mean, people are a little, the tea leaves. Let's look at the tea leaves. They are ignorant and blind to the tea leaves. How does this stuff happen within your community if you're the top cop and you're a great top cop? At minimum, it's a failure to train. At maximum, it's a crime. So anyway, David, I won't rant anymore. Mike, back to you.
No, I mean, you're perfectly correct, and you're hitting the nail right on the head here with everything, because your points are actually correct. Your points are right on, and there is irrefutable proof. I mean, look at the situation that happened with you. When I bring it up with people, they deny, and I show them the video, and all of a sudden you can see that deer in the headlight looks, where it's like, oh my gosh, he's right. And it creates this animosity and tension towards you, but with people. But hey, that truth has to come out. People have to feel that tension. People have to know the truth, because we can't be having somebody that is practicing and involved in such tyranny and corruption have the image that he walks on water, especially with their Second Amendment organizations, which to me was very scary and very nerve-wracking when I heard that from that Second Amendment organization video that I forwarded to you. And it's disturbing. It just sends a chill down your spine just to think that they think that way, and to have any kind of decency at all to give him A+ rating as a Second Amendment organization. That should be like a big shame on you people. Shame on that, because that's exactly why I don't volunteer anymore, is because I've been in the mix. I was setting up the booths. I used to do the BB gun ranges for them. I was a range safety officer for the organization. I did everything for them. They used to leave the equipment in front of my house. I'd take it out, set up their booth, bring in members. I made them hundreds of thousands of dollars. I brought in thousands of members and, dozens of business affiliates.
It's a waste of time, man, when you understand the mechanics of how it works, right? So we've been sitting here perplexed. We're like, man, what is going on with Fox News, right? Like, when this third assassin hoax happened, they never corrected the record. Lo and behold, we find out that the California GOP has a deal with Fox News where they're literally controlling the candidates that go on there. And what does that present? That presents 2 Fox candidates and 10 other candidates, which you could find on my X account, by the way, at Not Van Miller, but 10 other candidates that are being completely ignored by Fox. What's also being ignored by Fox is the third assassin hoax, right? Which, by the way, we broke that too, by the way. That's another thing I want you people to know, is that Fox News was touting Bianco as a frontrunner candidate. Guess what? Until 2 months ago, and this was 6 months into our campaign against Chad Bianco, they took notice because so many people in the hundreds message Fox News saying that you guys are a bunch of censoring scumbags. You won't even talk about these other great candidates like Daniel Mercury and Leo Zaki and David Serpa and Louis Herms. I mean, there generally is good constitutional candidates running for California governor, but you won't hear about them. And when you look at why that's happening, it's all because of the California GOP. Now, why has the California GOP put up this loser, Chad Bianco, that has literally no chance of winning? I mean, think about it, guys. Even if Chad Bianco wasn't the third assassin hoaxer, a lying BLM kneeler, anti-2A, if you look at his visual of what he looks like Texas Walker Ranger, and which is not going to appeal to Californians. Now, why has he been put out there? You know why? Because there's a group of fanatical individuals that'll donate money to people like Chad Bianco. He's nothing but a fundraising mechanism when the GOP itself knows that this man has zero chance of actually winning. In fact, a British guy, a guy that's not even born and raised here, is kicking his ass threefold because he's a semi-normal candidate and not a bad-tempered a-hole. So that tells you about the GOP leading our people off the cliff, and also tells you why people like David and I are sick of donating our time to these people, because we go out there and we're thinking Constitution, right? The Democrats, they don't seem to be very pro-Constitution. Republicans seem to be very pro-Constitution, or at least that's the way fakers like Chad Bianco present themselves. So like idiots, we go out there and we say, hey, let's help this guy that's pro-Constitution. But when the shit hits the fan, they ain't pro-Constitution. So anyway, end of that rant. Mike, back to you, sir.
Yeah, so my question was during, my whole ordeal was, where's the Second Amendment organizations at? Why ain't they backing me up? Why don't they want to challenge us on its face like I did? Because the reason why I filed my case was, A, for everyone in California that wants to carry a weapon and defend their family and not go to prison, and B, to prove that I could do what the Second Amendment organizations are refusing to do, which is take action against this unconstitutional scheme under Bruin. And the whole reason why this isn't happening is because there's a lot of money. A CCW instructor charges a minimum of $275 for a 16-hour course in California. That's over 2 days. They'll do it over like a Saturday or Sunday or evenings or whatever they could do. And they'll squeeze in about 25 shooters or students in class. That's 25 people. They're making a lot of money per week. And then if you look at that per month, that's like 6,000 plus a month, 8,000 a month. And then it comes down to like a lot of money every year. I'm sorry, my numbers are off, but I did the numbers, and for one instructor at $275 at 25 students every week for 52 weeks, because these classes get sold out. That's $360,000 if I'm not mistaken, if my numbers are right. So that's exactly why they don't want this to go away. If you notice, all the instructors are all connected with local law enforcement. They're connected with local Second Amendment organizations. And for a while, they had a monopoly after SB2 because they dropped a lot of the instructors off of the roster and who could teach and who could give the course and who could get paid off of you begging for a Second Amendment right. That's and the only right that's assured by the Constitution. You have to beg for this. You have to pay to beg, and then hopefully cross your fingers that you get accepted to move on further into the application process. Go get your training, and then they need to determine if you have a psychological issue or not. So you need to pay another $150, $200 to do a psychological evaluation. And you're paying for all that. You're paying for all this infringement. And they're laughing all the way to the bank because they know for a fact that no one's going to speak up about it. Everyone's kind of accepting it, and we're suffering that Stockholm syndrome.
One thing I want to mention, man, there's a lot of parallels here. And everybody comes to us with all their issues. The story you're saying actually sounds very much like a family law story, which we cover a lot too, which is a government scheme. What they do is once you sign these agreements that, hey, I'm agreeing to your tyranny, I'm agreeing to get a CCW, even though the Constitution says, because most people will just get a CCW as opposed to moving this up to the Supreme Court so you could nullify CCWs because that costs millions of dollars, right? So most people will go along with this kind of tyranny. And this is where they've caught us. And the family courts are the same situation where you sign on to a marriage certificate, you're giving government license. And then what happens with a lot of dads, by the way, you hear in these stories, is that 80-90% of the time, the children are withheld from the dad and they got to spend money on psychological evaluations to prove that they're innocent before proven guilty, literally. Like if an ex-wife says, hey, my ex is crazy, they'll make you spend thousands of dollars on mental health, assessments to prove that you're not crazy. And what you see in this fraud, and this is the point I'm trying to make, that all this fraud's the same, man. The people that are getting screwed out of CCWs and their constitutional rights, the fathers and mothers that are losing their children to the kidnapping and trafficking scheme of the family law courts that withhold your kids until you spend a whole bunch of money on shit. It's the exact same thing. It's government tyranny made possible by people like Chad Bianco. And by the way, you look at Chad Bianco's brother, Brett Bianco, he's a pro-LGBTQ plus family law attorney with 4 adopted girls, has so many complaints. Just Google it. Brett Bianco complaints and lawsuits. He has got complaints and lawsuits like this from parents saying, you stole my kid for financial reasons because you're going to sell off my baby for forced adoption, probably to some gay couple. And you know what? I don't have anything against law-abiding gay couples having their own kids, but not at the price of stealing a kid from their mom and essentially holding that thing hostage. No different than CCWs. You're not going to get your CCW until you spend money on it. And somebody said you have red flag issues. Well, guess what? You got to go spend $5,000 on a mental health assessment to prove that you don't have mental health. It's just because there was a red flag BS California law that made you do that. So it's all a money making scheme to rob us of our funds.
And it's all subjective. It's all arbitrary rules and subjective standards when it comes to these psychological evaluations. And when you take them for your CCW, and more than likely even in Riverside County for parenting, you probably can't get the results. They'll probably act like, well, you can't get that. You ask these people here, ask those people there. Because when I was trying to get my psychological evaluation results for my CCW appeal, I couldn't figure out where to get those records. I'm like, okay, so it's just some kind of arbitrary rule that we don't like your psychological, test results. So what's the score? There is no set standard of score. It's just somebody who sits there and says, we already don't like him. We're just using this as a roadblock and as a hurdle, and not only as a price hurdle, but as just as a means to give a reason to deny, because you could be the best law-abiding citizen, no DUIs, no arrest, nothing on your record, but hey, go take the psychological evaluation. Hey, we don't like the hue of your skin. We don't like your religion. We don't like what you put over here on social media. Oh, you got a psychological problem we don't like, and too bad you don't get a CCW. That's the way it goes. And that's the way it's structured and established. And even for parenting, you pay all this money for psychological evaluation, and based on some arbitrary rule, no, we don't like you. We've already determined you're not going to get these kids, but we need to keep our doctors paid.
Yeah, scumbags. I mean, they're all fucking scumbags, dude. And the whole lot of them, every single person that endorsed Chad Bianco ignorantly so, and this guy's literally not stopping a lot of the fundamental issues. You know what, Chad? If you have problems with what's happening with the destruction of families in the United States, then first of all, investigate your brother, Brett Bianco, that's got dozens of complaints against him. Horrible complaints of kidnapping and trafficking children, felonious issues, and you won't give CCWs to law-abiding citizens like David. Now, David, is there anything you want to mention in closing? I'm going to pass the mic to you, to your heart's content, brother. Let us know what you're thinking.
Okay. Well, like I said, I started the federal lawsuit, Vallejos v. Rob Bonta and Chad Bianco, that is challenging the unconstitutional CCW scheme. I did a pro se with no help from any attorneys. I've been reaching out to attorneys and Second Amendment organizations for over 2.5, close to 3 years now, since the Bruin decision and my first denial. I gave the Second Amendment organizations a pathway and a strategy. The strategy I used to challenge this on its face, because if you notice, Second Amendment organizations, they kind of do a lot of frivolous cases where it doesn't really help a lot of people. Like, there's not a lot of people going to prison for high capacity magazines per se. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a wobble or a wobble charge where they could kind of do probation. There's people literally going to prison and jail for carrying a weapon in public. That is their constitutional right. So how come nobody is fighting to protect the citizens and their members against this unconstitutional scheme that is established to keep people in prison, to rip parents away from their children? It's all part of that same scheme. If they rip away this and they give us constitutional carry, that means that the father's not going to get ripped away from that child. That means that that child's not going to end up in the foster system. That means less money for the lawyers because you need to pay for criminal defense, less lawyers for the foster care system because that kid isn't going to be circulated, less money for the courts, less money for this. And it's all a money-making scheme, everything. And it's all established because they want to rip away your inalienable rights that are assured by the Constitution. That's it, plain and simple. Your right to parent your child, your right to carry a weapon for self-defense. Like, we're not armed for violence. We're armed to defend life, and our own life and the life of our family and people around us if we feel the need to. If we want to intercede on a situation and like that gentleman in what was it, Reno, stop that Walmart stabbing. He had a CCW. He had his own weapons. He stopped the action there. He wasn't armed to be violent. He was armed to stop situations. That's what we want to do. They want to make it sound like we are wanting to be armed to be violent and to teach people lessons. I tell people all the time that we're not armed in society to teach people lessons. We are there to preserve life. That's it. Your own life and the life of your loved ones and the people around you. Plain and simple. That's it. We're law-abiding citizens.
I got to put out a word here because I just got my CCW, by the way, and I'm going to show you guys my beautiful Glock over here. This gun is such a great gun, man. I'm not even that much of a gun guy. I just I got into this stuff because you got to protect yourself as a media person that's talking this much smack about corrupt individuals. And got to recommend this gentleman named, for anybody in Nevada, Frank Friends. One of the best CCW instructors. Even though I hate CCWs, I hate to be pushing it. It's tyranny on the installment plan. But for people that are not doing the sort of things that David's doing, where they're ready to take this up to the Supreme Court, there is good options for good CCW instructors. But
I agree.
Huh?
I agree. There's good CCW instructors out there that have good hearts that are in it to give access, and they don't have that heart of I want to make a profit off it. They're there to give access to good people like me, you, and everybody else. And there's actually good CCW instructors out there because training's good. I'm not against training at all. You need to be trained. But the CCW classes here in California are literally like a scam, and you sit there eating pizza, drinking coffee, and watch YouTube videos all day. And you have minimal range time. And there's some, not saying all of them, there's some out there where I read the reviews and I talk to people and they said they actually got trained. They were instructed on how to handle the weapon and how to carefully and safely draw and put shots on target. They were actually there for instruction. But the classes I took 2 different classes for CCW here in California. The first time was for my first run around, and the second time was for my second attempt at the permit. And both times we're literally just sitting there watching videos waiting for the time to run out. And it's a joke of a program, but I'm not saying all of them are like that. I have a lot of respect for the CCW instructors out there that actually give time and effort to show people how to safely be responsibly armed citizens who are who have a good mind.
And I think learning with a professional is definitely helpful. I mean, there's only something to be said about getting trained. I'm not against that process. I'm just against this idea that we need to get permission and more regulation and more government. And I'm specifically against that. People that are supposed to be conservative, less government type people that say they're less government, they're really about more government, and they're just saying that so they could get the widest amount of votes possible. I mean, it doesn't even work anymore because people sense when somebody's inauthentic. So anyway, now in terms of David, where you think this is going, and just in closing, could you tell us where you think this lawsuit's going to go? What do you imagine is going to happen? How far are you willing to take it?
I'm willing to go as far as I need to go. I have no help. Like I said, I'm inexperienced. They're trying to move for dismissal, of course. Of course, they're going to try to do that. But I've heard I had a good judge, which is Charlene Peace. I can't remember her full name. But she's the one who issued a order against LA County Sheriff's or the state of California saying they have to issue out-of-state permits. So she is a good judge according to track record for Second Amendment judgments, but we can only see because it's the 9th District, the 9th Circus, and I'm hoping maybe, that somebody will step in and be like, hey, I'll help this gentleman here. I'm an attorney, or, this Second Amendment organization like FPC or somebody will step in and be like, we need to help this guy because I don't know what to do from here. It's kind of in limbo. They have my preliminary injunction just kind of in limbo and stuck, and it's not going anywhere. And it was supposed to be done in March, I believe, and it's already July, and there's no word on what's going to happen. It's kind of stuck in limbo. So I'm hoping to get some help from somebody, a legal professional, to kind of give me the idea where it needs to go and give me that push on and the direction this case needs to go to get it going, because it's just kind of stuck in limbo right now with them pending dismissal for some reason. So the state's saying, we want to dismiss it. And what do you know? Who's right there fighting right alongside with Rob Bonta, who he says he absolutely hates? Chad Bianco. He's right there fighting right alongside with Rob Bonta.
They're on the same team. It's absolutely bullshit.
Oh.
I mean, look, Rob Bonta's an idiot. Rob Bonta's a freaking moron on the level of a Chad Bianco, because the amount of evidence we have as civilians right now is enough to have Bianco brought up on charges. There's no way that you could look at the amount of evidence that is out there today, right now, via the Vicky Flores case, the 12 other individuals that have sued him for literal criminal deeds, and other deputies for literal criminal deeds. And there's no, I mean, it's WWE. That's what people don't get. When you're talking about corrupt officials, party lines are gone, right? The difference between a Rob Bonta, Chad Bianco, Hestrin, I mean, it's an ecosystem of corruption. These are the fools that can't even break a case, like that have like 1% of the intelligence of the Sherlock Holmes that are out there claiming that they're capable, and they're not. Because if we could dig up this much crime and patterns and practices of crime from Chad Bianco, like with all the tools in the world, the Department of Justice can't do that. You know, we've seen this throughout history. We've seen this sort of thing throughout history. Like, you had the Biden administration, nobody was being held accountable, right? And you wonder why they're not being held accountable. And then all of a sudden the Trump administration starts, and you see a little bit of accountability, although I'm very not happy with the amount of accountability. I'm just being patient, but I'm just saying you see a little bit of accountability, and you realize that it's really the people in power, that Bonta, Hestrin, Bianco, there's no way they're not playing on the same team. And honestly, I would add Newsom on top of that, because when the third assassin hoax happened, that was a perfect opportunity for Newsom to stand up there and go, look at this clown. Like, he could have destroyed that guy's candidacy right there, but he didn't. You know why? Because they all have dirt on each other. They all have dirt on each other. What happened right now with this union guy named Bill that was put on administrative leave, because according to a lot of witnesses, there's been a lot of crime and corruption. Now, what's going to happen is Chad Bianco is going to investigate that crime and corruption, even though a lot of the witnesses say that Bill and Chad were in bed together. And guess what's going to happen? Chad's going to dismiss any issues with Bill, just cover it up, because they're all in cahoots with one another. It doesn't happen if there's no ecosystem. So anyway, any other final words you'd like to say, David, before we wrap this up?
I appreciate you opening up the time and the slot for me, and thank you for your fight and what you're doing. And I appreciate you, giving me the time and the energy to, give me the voice, because it was very hard to get on anyone's podcast. John Crump had me on real briefly, and I called into Cape Gunworks, which are two good people there. They are total two-way absolutist, and they were willing to hear my story and have me on, just like you. And I appreciate you people for that.
I got to say, a lot of these podcasters are hacks. There's a lot of people I appreciate and respect. A lot of these people are hacks, and you'll find that out when you realize how many people Chad Bianco paid to get on podcasts. And these individuals, if you have people like David and I going, hey, why don't you interview us too, so we could give you the other version, because Chad Bianco is always lying. He's always saying that, the left is after him. And then you have a Republican, I'm pretty sure you sound like you're a Republican, going after him as well. And so, it's just not true. But these podcasts won't let people like me and David on, because we would go against the Chad Bianco narrative on why are they that way? Because a lot of these guys are pay to play. That's the truth. A lot of these guys are pay to play. They'll literally interview Adolf Hitler if you give them $10,000. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not even joking. Like, you literally pay them. And I've emailed a lot of these people after Chad Bianco has gone on their podcast. I've emailed these people going, hey, you just had Chad Bianco on. Why didn't you hear the alternate version of the story, either from myself or Vicky Flores or Michael Lujan? And then they write back to me saying, yeah, sure. It's, we charge $25,000, right? Yep. About how this nonsense works. And by the way, that $25,000, guys, is coming from a lot of places it shouldn't be coming from, So anyway, to wrap this up, guys, thank you so much for joining us for this Blood Money episode. Make sure you check out AmericaHappens.com for all of our featured content. Check out my X account, Mindy's X account at iHeartMindy, not Vem Miller, and AmericaHappens.com. I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money. Thank you.